Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of the EcomXFactor podcast. In today's episode, we have with us Sharney Ryan, the owner and founder of Mash Media. In this episode, we talked about branding, why is it important, and how anybody can get some quick wins using correct branding practices. We also spoke about measuring branding efforts, understanding consumer behavior, A/B testing, usability tests, and much more. This talk really covered a lot and it really made me rethink about the branding efforts of our stores and different businesses. Please enjoy this wide-ranging conversation with Sharney Ryan. Hi Sharney, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Yourself?
I'm great, thank you very much. It seems dark over there. Is it late?
It is. It's late at night, and my sleeping babies are right next door, so I'm trying to keep quiet.
That's great. Yeah, we'll try to keep it quiet, and maybe if needed, we'll in the post editing we'll increase the volume so we won't wake them up.
Hopefully I've got a very good quality system, so hopefully it's all good.
Cool. Which one is it? Do you like it? Because I'm currently searching for audio phones.
It's both. And it's got noise cancelling, but it picks up microphone particularly. So.
Cool. Yeah, I was thinking of buying the Bose one, but I'm not sure if because I need them more for exercising, and I like something light. But maybe I'll check this out. So for our listeners and audience, can you tell us a bit about your marketing agency and your background before we dive into more interesting stuff?
Yes. So I studied marketing at uni probably about 20 years ago, before there was any such a thing as Facebook and e-commerce. It didn't even exist back then. Over the years, I've worked for creative agencies, magazines, one of the big four agencies, directories, newspapers, you name it. But my passion always seemed to lie in the digital. Mainly because of the fact that it's quantifiable. I like the fact that you can track data and make educated decisions as opposed to guesswork, which is what the rest of it is. So I guess I take my formal education and experience and data and put it all together and work with my clients to provide them with marketing strategies to help them become successful online. And Mash Media has been around about 5 years, and I've grown it from being just me working as a marketing consultant to a team of 30 across the world. I've got employees in the US, in London, and in Australia, and in the Philippines. I've actually got four countries where I've got staff. Cool. So a bit of a global industry, aren't we?
Yeah, for sure.
Online marketing.
Sounds awesome. Great. What have changed since you started? Like, what did you study back then that changed a lot lately, and what seems to be similar?
Well, I'd say the things that I studied, believe it or not, the core competencies haven't changed. It's more about branding because, even though brand loyalty is not as big as it used to be, it's still important. In fact, it's probably more important than it ever was because there is so much choice these days, and we're exposed to so much media. And if you want to stand out from the noise, your brand is the best way to do that. So from what's changed, it's not so much the strategy so much, but more the methodology. So instead of focusing on what kind of TV ads you're doing, it's more focusing on what kind of digital display ads are you doing, and what are you saying in your Google AdWords, and are you going on shopping where you can use an image? Is that a better option for you, or is it better for me to be on Facebook Marketplace or Facebook groups? So it's the same message but different channels.
I kind of understand what you mean, because I think people are the same 20 years ago, and today people are the same. They still have the same psychological needs. But as you said, it's more about the tactic, where you want to be and where you want to go and how you want to promote your brand. But still you need people to relate to your brand and to love your brand and to appreciate and trust you. So I think it didn't change, and it probably won't change as long as we're human beings and not AIs.
Exactly. No, exactly. We, consumer buyer behavior is all psychology, exactly as you said. So it's how it makes us feel. So, some of the buzzwords in the industry now is, as well as just ROI, and ROAS, return on ad spend, there's also ROX now, return on experience. So what kind of experience are you providing your clients, and are you rewarding the dollars you're spending on that experience? Is it paying off in dollar value?
Can you elaborate a bit about this? Because I haven't heard about ROX. I haven't heard about the
ROX, yeah. So an example of that is a client that I've worked with recently. They are a big flooring company. So they've got 5 different locations. They're a very big flooring company. They do advertise on radio and TV and the press and all of that, as well as a full digital suite. And the strategy was to make their site more engaging. How can we provide a better experience through online? And how we decided to do that was from doing 3D rendering. So, we have a picture of a lounge room, for example, and then all the different carpet swatches. So someone can go in and go, okay, for my lounge room, I want to see this carpet in this color, and it will change the picture so people can get a bit of a feel for what it looks like. And then we have a bedroom as well, so people can see how that would look in the bedroom, or if they wanted to do hardwood in the bedroom and carpet in the living room, you can kind of see how that will look, or vice versa. So it was a big undertaking, because between the 2 different rooms and all the different products, I think we had to do 3D rendering for 400 images.
Wow. That's a lot.
Yeah.
I know, because my wife is an architect, and I know like rendering each image can take like a huge amount of time and capacity of the team. Yeah.
So it was a huge project. So the whole idea behind it was to create that engaging experience for customers. So then it was a case of, so the cost of that, from the top of my head, I think it was about a $16,000 task just for that one page on their website, that one experience. So for them, from a profit margin perspective, for that experience to pay for itself, they'd need to get a fair bit of revenue. I think $60,000 worth of carpet was the goal. They went, okay, well, we need to sell $60,000 worth of carpet to pay for that experience. But the very first day we launched it, the next day a client came into one of the stores and said to the guy, I've been on your website and I want this one and this one and I want this, because he'd been on there. So the owner of the stores were quite happy to say that the very first day it was launched, he was already getting people coming in saying, we've been on your website, we've looked at this is what we want. So it made the salespeople's job easier. Clients are appreciating it, loving it. The conversion rates increased, time on site spent increased. So overall, that return on experience was good. It paid off on a revenue perspective in the door. So
great. Sounds awesome. And it's interesting because a lot of time when you do like a marketing campaign and it's not direct response, you can't really quantify the lift in the numbers, because it's hard to correlate like, okay, I spent $1,000 on branding and brand efforts, but I don't know exactly if it how it improved the CPA. So you need to quantify and measure the blended CPA, like take the cost of the experience and also the cost of the CPA of like the direct response, and quantify it, and then you see the ROAS like you mentioned. So how do you figure this out? How do you like calculate the lift? How do you go to like a business owner and show him the lift? And if he says, listen, I don't see the CPA going down, and then you need to convey to him that there was a lift, but it was from the branding effort. So how do you do this?
Well, I normally look at all the different metrics and see what's changed. The cost per acquisition may not have increased from his online perspective, but then we talk to foot traffic and we go, all right, have we talked to the salespeople? What are they finding? What are they noticing? Let's have a look at our social media. Let's have a look at our reviews. Have they increased? It could be time spent on sites increase, conversion rates. So cost per acquisition might still be the same, but there's all these other factors that can come into it. So far though, I generally tend to do the research and have an estimate before we go into it to say, well, this is how long I expect it will take for you to see a return. And it's also working out with the client, are they doing it for a brand experience or are they needing it to have a return on experience? And are they wanting to quantify that? Because for some bigger companies, they're not too worried about that. They just want to stand out from the crowd. They want that brand. And for others, it's like, well, no, if I'm going to put money into it, I want to see what I get out of it. So it's really just knowing, I guess, what the goal is, and then
Yeah, I agree. I guess you're right. It's just about if you clarify what you expect and the KPIs, obviously, which you should clarify all the time up front, and then you can measure the success in according to the KPIs achieved. So it kind of solves this problem. That being said, what are some misconceptions about branding that you see a lot when you're like talking with marketers or business owners? Stuff that you think that you see branding different, or that people get wrong about branding?
Oh gosh, well the main one would be when people think that it's not important. And what they then find is they do it on the cheap, or they don't really put any effort into it. Now, I'm not saying you need to go and spend a fortune on branding, not at all, but you need to put some thought into it. And what a lot of businesses do is they don't put any thought in it whatsoever. They just want to get the business going. They don't think about the brand. They don't think about their customers. They don't do the competitor analysis, and they just go out like a bull at a gate. But then after a year in business, they go, oh, I'm not as good as my competitors, or I need to lift my game. And then what they're finding they're having to do is go to a graphic designer or whoever it might be, an agency, and go, oh, I need a new logo and I need new branding. I need to update my website. Then you've got to change your business cards, change your Facebook. And then all of a sudden that brand recognition disappears. So what I normally tell most businesses is, look, I'm not saying you have to spend a lot of money, but what I am saying is spend a little bit of time thinking about it, because it's going to be a bigger headache for you to go and change everything down the track. So for example, when I first started, I did exactly that. I created my own logo in a Word document using clip art or something ridiculous like that. And then when I started bigger, I went to the next level, and I think I got Fiverr or something to do one for me, and it cost me $30 or something. And then it was the third time around that I actually got a graphic designer, and I got it done properly, and we looked at colours and what I want to do and how I want to stand out different to my competitors. And I've had that same branding now for 4 or 5 years. And recently I've actually rebranded. Now I haven't gone and redone the whole thing. I just modernized it a little bit by slightly changing the hues in the colors. So it just made it a little bit more of a modern twist, but without having to redo everything. It was just a slow, gradual change. But that was because I put thought into it.
Why did you decide to change the branding? What, is there anything specifically happened, or what made you decide changing? And why was it like just a slight adjustment and not like a complete rebranding?
Because I've made MASH really quite, like my colours are dark blue and purple, and it's quite different. Most marketing companies use the black, white, grey, navy blue and grey, and I wanted to stand out. And I find purple is a colour that's kind of bright, it's happy, it's loyal, it's regal, it's all the things that I sort of stand for, and with loyalty and truth and honesty and all of those things that purple is an emotive colour for. But it stands out. Purple's just not a colour that's a well-known branded colour, so it stands out, which is why I wanted to do it. So when it came to adjusting it, I didn't want to change it so much, but my original colours, the pop colour was yellow because it stood out against the purple. But then when I wanted to freshen the brand up a little bit more, I wanted to focus on sort of light, bright, fresher, whiter colours, and then have the purple really stand out, and the yellow was just too much of a clashing colour. So I just wanted to remove the yellow and stick with purple being the bold colour up against the white and blue. So yeah, it was a slight change, but it also meant I didn't have to go and change my logos, my business cards,
so
stuff like that.
So obviously you put in a lot of thought into like the colors and stuff like that. So what would you suggest for like an e-commerce store owner who hears this podcast and he says, okay, until now I neglected branding, but now I want to put some minimum efforts into branding. So what would you say, or like quick wins, easy fixes that he can do? What is the process he should follow? Like get a logo, think about the brand values, think about the brand colors, like easy wins. It's something that he doesn't need to invest too much time or effort, but still can really change his brand for the better.
Well, without us being graphic designers, trying to come up with a color combination that's really striking and really works is very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
So my recommendation is just Google website color combinations.
Mm-hmm.
There'll be plenty of websites that'll come up. Canva particularly does a lot of blog articles where they give you 100 different color combinations, and you can see what they look like together on a website.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say first thing is Google that, go through and do some research on some color combinations and find one that resonates with you, because at the end of the day, the brand is an extension of you. So find a color palette that resonates with you, with the products you want to sell, and with the people that are likely to buy from you. So where this might vary is if you're selling something related to health and well-being or natural products, you know, the greens and the yellows and the blues are the kind of colors you want to use. If you're selling something, you know, for children, you might want to use purples and pinks and pastel type colors. If you're selling something for men like car parts and auto parts, you might want to use blacks, greys, whites, reds as your pop color. So it's more just thinking about what are you selling, who are you selling to, what's going to bring out the right type of emotion in that. So that's an easy thing to do. Google it, have a look, find a color palette. Once you've got that color palette, everything is derived from there. So your website, the buttons on your website, the color pop in your logo, the links in your website, the link colors, the icons, all of those things will all be represented in that 4 colors, the 4 main colors that you choose. So that's a quick win. It's an easy thing to do. It's a little bit of time, but that's it. It doesn't cost you anything. Once you've got your color palette, you can go from there. And then Canva. Canva is everybody's best friend.
Yeah, Canva is amazing. I love it so much.
So once you've got your color palette, you just go through Canva, you type in logos and you just, again, find something that represents what you're after and play with the colors and the fonts and voila, you've got your own professional type of logo, which doesn't cost you a cent. It just takes you a little bit of time.
Are you using the free Canva? Because I just moved to the paid Canva just for trial, and I didn't see too many advantages in using the paid. So
no, there's not really. Look, I have a graphic designer team, so I don't actually use Canva. But that being said, I highly recommend it to all of my clients. I mean, not everybody has graphic designers on their team, and they're expensive. So
I agree.
I think graphic design, you know, for anyone who, like, when I'm trying to send a wireframe of what I want something to look like to my graphic designers, I use Canva just to show him what I want it to look like, because that's, you know, the paid version, look, all it does really is it opens up the icons and things a little more.
Yeah, a lot of shutter stuff, and
But you know, it's not.
Yeah, I agree. And what about a slogan? Do you have like a template that, for example, obviously when you create a slogan for your clients, so you think about the values and you create the slogan from scratch, but is there any templates that people that don't want to invest so long should use, like maybe 3 words that start with the same letter, or copy a big brand in the same vertical, like any like guidelines for choosing a slogan?
Oh, look, to be honest with you, I think slogans are less important than the experience, the feel, the customer service. I think a slogan is something that if you've got one, that's great. If you don't, I wouldn't stress too much about it, because you can always add it. You can always, when you know, if something comes to you, or as your brand evolves, it's easy enough to add a slogan. But especially for e-commerce, the things that are the most important is knowing who your customers are, making sure you're giving them a good experience, having a memorable brand, because it's a dime a dozen. You know, there's a million different e-commerce stores out there, especially with drop shipping. So you just got to stand out from the crowd, because people see this kind of stuff all the time. So as I've seen on your YouTube channel, you know, there's ways to find good products that are selling well and that has consumer interest. So, you know, I would sort of say to people, once you know what you're wanting to sell, have a look at who's going to buy it, and have a look at who your competitors are, and work out yourself what you like and what you don't like about these particular sites, and try to be better than the next guy. Just add that one thing differently, and it might be that you're return policies a little bit better or easier
Mm-hmm.
to see, or less legal jargon. It could be a simple case of reducing your shipping by 5 cents to make
Mm-hmm.
it that little bit cheaper. It could be rewards programs. So,
Mm-hmm.
spend $100, get $10 voucher.
Yeah.
Because then people will get that voucher. They're happy about getting that voucher, and they'll come back to your store and spend more money with you because they've got that $10 voucher, and nobody wants to let that go.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. Yeah, minor changes can make such a huge difference. Like we make it a point to run at least one A/B test every week for each product that we're selling. And so I'm amazed every time, like by changing just a short quote or just adding like changing the micro copy underneath the add to cart button, it can make a lift in like 0.7% in the conversion, which can mean a lot more money on a daily basis. So yeah, taking a look on the minor stuff and not neglecting A/B testing. I think a lot of people overlook A/B testing, and I think it's such a crucial part. Once you drive a lot of traffic to your site, you should optimize and try to get as much as conversion as possible from each traffic source that you can get. So optimizing using A/B tests is so crucial in my opinion.
I agree 100%. I often tell my clients, I go, well, look, if you look at your current, say, Google AdWords campaign and your conversion rate at the moment from traffic to leads or not leads, purchases, it might be 2%, for example. And I say to my client, if you can get that 2% to 4%, that's literally double the revenue without spending any more money. So I said, and just to go up 2%, it's not a hard thing to do. We just got to trial a couple of things until we see what works. And as you said, little things can make a big difference. So to give you an example, and not slightly off e-commerce, but one of my clients recently was in pest control, pest management, and his website was all black and grey and white and had redback spiders on it and everything, very masculine. And when I started talking to him about, who are the people that make the calls, who are the people that ring you, and most of the time he'd said about 70% of his clients were women. And I went, yes, I imagine they would be. And I said,
makes sense.
And I said, so women don't want to see pictures of spiders on the website. In fact, if a woman wants a pest control because they're scared of spiders and they go to your website and there's a picture of a redback, they're going to go, ooh, and come off. What they want to see is a nice, happy picture of a family in a home with a pet and a baby, and go, our chemicals are non-toxic, but we will remove all pests from your house and we guarantee 6 months pest-free or whatever it might be. I said, that's what women want to know. And it was funny because we changed the language slightly. And we changed the colors slightly, and he didn't spend any more money than what he was doing. All it was just those few changes to his website, and his conversions increased by 3,700% in 30 days.
Amazing.
Within 30 days.
That's great.
So yeah, little changes in A/B testing. Oh my goodness, it's a must. It's an absolute must for a business strategy. Like you'd be crazy not to be doing it.
Yeah, and also I like really trying to figure who is buying from you. Obviously, you can also rely on the data and see what are the buyers' ages, the demographics, if they are female or male, but just trying to get into their head and understand their needs and their objectives, like and what they're afraid of. It's for me, it seems so like it goes without saying you should do so, but a lot of people, a lot of store owners or business owners, their field of expertise is in marketing, so they don't do this, and it's a shame because there's a lot of money that can be collected using like just slight improvements and adjustments.
Well, I guess it's one of those things like, it's good that business owners have so much advice and opportunity these days to go online and learn all these things for themselves. It's more just trying to find the time. I think education is power. If when you're running a business, the more you understand about every avenue of your business, the more empowered you are to make the right decisions and be more successive. And that's just part of being a business owner. You have to wear so many different hats. And one of my business coaches said to me, he said, look, you don't have to be an expert in every area of your business. He said, you just have to know enough about it to know that you're on the right track, or that you're making improvements, or
Agree.
like I'm not an expert in accounting by any means, but
Nobody's an expert in accounting except
but
of
when my
the
accountant
accountants.
comes to me and says, "Hey, I've found a $14,000 return for you," I go, "You're fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep you." Versus an accountant that constantly gives me tax bills, where I go, "Well, hold on a minute. Why am I paying more and more and more?" So you don't have to be an expert in that area, but you're right. A lot of business owners don't realize that understanding, customer personas and buyer behavior is important. But I mean, that's why people like me went to university for 3 years. And then after that, I went to Harvard Business School, went there for 2 years and have studied pretty much for the last 20 years to continually learn this. So it's not an easy thing to learn. But like you said, it's just little things.
Yeah.
Just, if people are scared of the whole A/B testing and it seems overwhelming, I normally say to clients, just break it down to one task.
Yeah.
Just look at your website and go, what's one thing that I can change that might improve? And just make one change and see how it goes. Give it 30 days, see how it goes. If it's made an improvement, great, winning, move on to the next change. So a lot of it is just, don't be overwhelmed by all these things. It's more just give yourself a task. Okay, this month I'm going to focus on this. Next month I'm going to focus on that, or weekly, or whatever it might be that you're comfortable with. Everyone's obviously in different positions, different stages of business, and they just have to do what's right for them. But at the end of the day, we always need to be towards better, right? That's
definitely.
We always have to be trying to better ourselves in our personal life, our business life, our relationships, our houses, cars we drive, food we eat. It's, an ongoing human condition, isn't it? To always try and improve ourselves.
All the time optimizing, agree. And you mentioned before like quantifiable metrics and KPIs, like in the beginning of the talk. And I was wondering if there are like metrics that you think that you really use a lot, but are often also overlooked, like anything that you really like to see in a funnel and analyze. Let's say, like you mentioned, the ROAS, but something a bit more like very creative that you like using, and you think the audience can benefit from. Start analyzing, for example, cart abandonment rate in opposing to click rate or something like that, like a hack for metrics. You get what I mean?
Yeah, so there's basically two schools to that. So there's one is what people overlook, and the other one is what people focus too much on that doesn't matter. I think one of the things that people focus on too much is things like impressions and how much traffic. And I have to remind them all the time that it doesn't really matter how often you come up. It doesn't really matter how many clicks you get to your site. What matters is when they get to your site, what are they doing? Because once you've got those people, as I said before, if you're converting 2% versus 4% or 1 versus 2, it makes a huge difference. So I usually say to clients, don't worry too much about how often you come up. Worry about looking after the people that are there, because once you've got them there, you've got a potential client or buyer. So focus on them. And from I don't know if overlooked is quite the right word, but something that's not done often enough, I feel, is not having a look at, as you said, conversion rate optimization, which is either the form fills or the quote fills or the abandonment or the page journey. So I often feel that people forget to look at, and it can easily be set up in analytics, the waterfall. And people tend to not notice which page people go on the most and optimize that page. And yes, there's the abandoned cart. Sometimes, depending on what your product is, whether it's a large buying product or a small costing product, there might be other varying factors that you might want to consider. But yeah, there is softwares that you can use for abandoned cart, which I'm assuming most of your audience is already onto. I mean, these are huge. They can bring back 40% of your lost lost sales. But I would say previous to that, you need to look at what pages people are going to. So what I mean by that is people sometimes might not get to the cart because they might look at a product page, for example, and if that product page doesn't have their buy now on it and they then need to scroll down further, if the abandonment point is here, that's where you need to be looking, going, why are people abandoning on this page? So every page that people have to go down, you can lose up to 50% of your traffic. So you need to try and have the quickest path to purchase.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I normally say to my clients is the best thing you can do is put a waterfall tracking in place and check every page that people go to and see where your drop-off rate is. Improve that page, because if that's where people are dropping off, that's the page you need to work on. So that's where your A/B testing can come into it. And
yeah, I agree. Optimizing each step of the funnel until you get to the perfect funnel, so-called. Yeah, totally agree. We did something. I also take a look in Google Analytics. There's a chart called the behavior flow, which you can see from each page what was the drop-off percent and where did the customers continue. And I saw that from one of my product pages, a lot of people went to the FAQ page. So what I decided to do, I just added an FAQ section in the product page. And I A/B tested this, and this improved the conversion in almost 1%, because instead of people going to the FAQ specific page, I answered all the questions in the product page and removed friction from the funnel. And this is something exactly what you mentioned, like analyzing each page and optimizing each page based on the journey of the customer.
Exactly. You want the shortest possible journey, and yeah, look at where the biggest drop-off rate is and focus on that page. Exactly as you just said, that's the spot on. That's exactly what I do with my clients, and that's it's what's overlooked. People don't look at it, and as you said, it's just their data's there in analytics. It's and it can seem a bit overwhelming. I know, but there's so many YouTube videos and resources out there to show you what you're looking for. And then it's just a case of when you know what. I mean, it was good with yours that you could see that people were going from that particular page to an FAQ.
Yeah.
Some clients that might not be that easy to see what it is about that page. So I would just say to clients that, if you know that this particular page is getting a huge drop-off rate, but you can't work out why, then just go from top to bottom. Ask some of your friends what they do and don't like, because sometimes you're too in your own business to see how other people perceive it. So I often have a whole heap of people around me that are not in my industry, and sometimes the things that they say, I go, never would have thought of that.
Yeah.
So sometimes do a little bit of market research, ask your friends, your family, your next door neighbors, your relatives to look at it and see what their suggestions and thoughts are if they were a customer. And like you said, do some A/B testing, do a couple of changes, see how it goes.
Yeah, what you mentioned is it's just usability tests. So, for example, a lot of the times I give my mom, I send her a landing page and I ask her to try and purchase. And I just look at her trying to purchase. And because she's almost 70 years old, she has, if she has frictions in the funnel and she doesn't really know where to buy or how to choose the quantity or the size. So I assume that maybe if my customers are also not so tech savvy, so they'll also have some problems. So usability tests are really important, as you mentioned, and it's also important to do the usability test with people who are your buyer's persona. Just don't give it just to random friends of yours if they are not potential customers.
Yes.
Yeah, I totally agree about this. And also another nice thing that we added, which also helped a lot, is after the purchase, we also do a short survey to all of our customers. And we ask, one of the questions that I asked them is, what almost prevented them from buying?
That's great. Yeah.
And based on their answers, I go ahead and create A/B test. And a lot of time it gives a lot of improvement, because they answer and you get an idea of what was the friction during the funnel, and then you can optimize.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a great idea.
So this is something also that I like. Regarding the branding effort, so a lot of people think that if you're using Facebook, you shouldn't use Google Ads because these customers are high intent, these are low intent. If you're using Facebook, you should only focus on Facebook and don't do Pinterest. So what is your take regarding like omni-channel branding and using different platforms to improve your branding?
Well, I think that all just comes down to that customer persona that you mentioned before. Look, I don't believe in just choosing one channel unless one channel is the right channel for you. And what I mean by that is I find that there's so many people on so many different channels at different times of the day, different stages of their life. So for example, my niece who's 14 lives on Facebook, but so does my mother-in-law who's in her 70s. They're both on Facebook multiple hours a day. So it's not to say that there's any one particular person on Facebook. You can target your ads to the right type of people. LinkedIn is similar. I mean, I have everything from accountants to bookkeepers to real estate agents to 20-year-olds and starting their career and, you know, through to 50-year-old CEOs. It's more a case of understanding your consumers. Where are they going to be? And that's where you focus your efforts. So if your customers are likely to be searching on Google and on Facebook and you can afford advertising on both, do both, because they're both going to have their own conversion rates. They're both going to have their own return on investment. And then it's up to you as a business owner to weigh it up. Because the other thing is you can get that brand exhaustion too. So if you're appearing to the same people with the same products over and over again on Facebook, it can get tiresome. So I guess that's the advantage of Google versus Facebook. Google is, a bit more direct. People are going there looking for something particular, whereas Facebook, they're not really looking for purchasing things. It's more just social. And if you happen to catch the right person with the right product at the right time, you get a sale. I find it really varies. I mean, even just the cost per acquisition varies greatly between Facebook and Google. Just depends on the level of competition for the products you're selling.
And it also depends on the attribution model that you're using, because sometimes people saw you first on Facebook and then they clicked on the Google ads and you don't attribute the CPA, the acquisition, to Facebook. So it's also something that need to take into account, the attribution.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Because I think most of the time, if you're doing full click attribution, if you're across like ranking organically on Facebook, on AdWords, we often find that it's a pretty reasonable estimate between 3 and 6 visits before someone will actually go through to a purchase stage. So that's quite a lot of shopping around and different places to spot you before they make a purchase. So knowing that path and plotting that journey is very important for you to maximize your marketing. But it's a hard one, because Facebook versus Google, I mean, they're both great. They're both different. It's more just knowing your customer. I mean, if you've got millennials and you're selling fashion, Facebook's the way to go, because no one's going to go, I want to buy a red top on Google.
For sure.
But you know, if you're selling motor vehicle parts and someone's looking for a particular motor vehicle part, they're more than likely to go to Google and go, well, I need an air filter for a Honda CX-V 2015 model. So it's really just knowing what you're selling, who your customer is, where are they going to be, and that's where you need to be. But brand consistency across the board. Colors, logos, messaging has to be the same across the board, no matter where you are.
Can you elaborate a bit about this, and also what's your take regarding, like, for me, I have like an inner debate. If I want to start advertising, for example, a product in Snapchat or Pinterest, but I know I don't have the capacity to do it well. Do you think it's worth doing like half with half of the capacity and not doing great, or you think that every brand should be like great, and if you can't go and use a new traffic source to the fullest, you shouldn't use it at all? What is your take about this?
Yeah, look, I think taking as much real estate up as possible is important. It's not to say that you have to be an expert at everything, but just make sure that if somebody finds you on a different channel, that brand consistency is there, and always direct them to your main website.
I see. And what do you mean by directing? You don't think you should provide a lot of value in each post? You prefer pointing to the website and providing the majority of the value in the website itself, instead of having people engage in the platform?
Depends on the platform. So going back to the first step is knowing who your customers are and being where they are. They're the areas you need to spend your time and effort. Talking about outside areas, so for example, Google My Business listings. For most e-commerce stores, they're all online and they don't have a Google My Business listing.
Mm-hmm.
I would say if you can set up a Google My Business listing from using your home address, do it. Because then if anybody Googles that your business name, or they've been told about you by somebody else, let's say I refer you to my next door neighbour and she goes and Googles you, you want to come up nice and easy and just be there wherever they look. So are you going to spend time doing posts on Google My Business every week? No, you don't have to, but make sure your logo's there and make sure it's got a link to your website and it's got a description about your business. Same with LinkedIn. So a lot of e-commerce websites, they might not have a business page on LinkedIn. LinkedIn might not be their main marketplace, but LinkedIn ranks very highly on Google. I would still recommend you go and set up a business profile page, talk about your business, mention what your products are, and again, have that link back to your website. So if Facebook is where your customers are, obviously you want to spend your time understanding what's going to work on Facebook. Make sure you're posting regularly. Make sure you're posting content that's going to get engagement. Know your metrics. Work on improving them continuously. But that being said, I would recommend from a branding perspective, take up as much real estate you can and just have a set description that you put that's about your business, about your brand, your opening hours, your email, your website, just those general branding contact information, and just put them wherever you can. I mean, that's one of the main points of SEO.
Yeah.
Take up as much real estate as you can. And all of those sites, like your LinkedIn, like your Foursquare, like your Yellow Pages, all of those sites rank highly on Google. So if you've got the opportunity to do a free listing and free branding and drive traffic back to your website, why wouldn't you do it?
Yeah, totally agree. Yeah, and it makes a lot of sense because a lot of customers, especially in dropshipping or small e-commerce businesses, that the brand isn't famous. So a lot of customers, they go to the store, they see the product, and then they start asking themselves questions. Can I trust this brand? And then they go on to Google and they search for Google. And if they're going to see that they have a page listing on Google and in LinkedIn and Foursquare and all the other places that you mentioned, it creates the trust, and it's probably going to also lift their conversions because people know that you're not shady or not some sort of a scam, because a lot of people have already been scammed by a lot of e-commerce and dropshippers, and just putting yourself out there makes a lot of sense, and as much as platforms as possible, as you mentioned.
Yeah, it's a simple case of, again, part of it is doing your research. So Google what products you're selling and see what comes up. If you're selling, the cooling pet beds, for example, go to Google and type in pet supplies and just see what kind of listings come up. And if there's directories for pet listings, go list yourself on there. If it's free and you can do it and get yourself a priority listing, it'll take 15 minutes of your time.
I agree.
And a lot of those other directories, especially like your LinkedIn and your Google My Business, they're free to list. And like you said, it creates that trust and that brand awareness and that feeling of authority and relevancy when people Google you. Because as you said, they see something on Facebook, they see an ad, they go to the website, there's that, I've never heard of these guys, can I trust them? And the first thing people do is they'll go to Google and they'll type the business name in. Or they'll type in the product and review to see what kind of reviews come up.
Reviews, yeah. A lot of, and this is also why you want to have a profile in review marketplaces like Trustpilot, or I don't know what is used in
Yelp.
Australia.
Well, no, we've got Trustpilot. There's Yelp. Yelp is a big one. Productreview.com is a big one. So again, yeah, all of those sites, if you can create your own listings. So for example, to give you an example of how this has had a negative impact for me by not doing this is there's actually 3 Mash Medias. There's one in the UK that's a big event organising company, and there's one in Canada, and then there's me here in Australia. So there's 3. Now, someone told me that I've got bad reviews on Google, and I went, I've got nothing but 5-star reviews anywhere. What are you talking about? So I went to Google and typed in Mash Media, and I went, that's not me. And on the whole page, there was one a little bit further down the first page. It was Glassdoor. Now, Glassdoor is a review site about companies where employees can go and talk about what it's like to work there. So it's not really something people in Australia use or do, but it was ranking on the first page of Google when you type in Mash Media. Anyway, when I looked at it, I know that wasn't my business. So I actually contacted the website and I said, look, when someone types in Mash Media, they're getting this negative reviews for this other company in the UK. And I said, this is affecting my business because I'm getting my clients tell me I've got bad reviews on the first page of Google. And I said, what can you do about this? And he said, okay, well, what I'll do, he said, I will put Mash Media and in brackets UK next to it. He said, what you need to do to differentiate yourself is go in there, set up Mash Media AUS and get a couple of reviews on there so that people can differentiate and see if they do type it in that you will come up, you're Australia, that's Canada, that's... So this is one of those things that I had to sort of be on the back foot because I hadn't actually checked often enough and seen that it was there and this other company was coming up and giving me bad reviews. So I would say to your clients, go do your research, jump on Google, put your business name in, just see what comes up and control your own destiny and your own search traffic as much as you possibly can.
I agree. Yeah, and also like it's worth emphasizing that every country might have different marketplaces for reviews. So majority of countries, they do use Trustpilot, but I know countries that the consumers, they don't use Trustpilot so often. So based on your targeted audience and your targeted geo, you should look up what is the most used marketplace for reviews and make sure that you have yourself listed and your brand listed in the relevant marketplace, because you might list yourself on Trustpilot, but if the consumers in your targeted consumers are not looking in Trustpilot, so it might be relevant. So you need to make sure you're listed on the relevant platforms.
Yeah, just Google yourself, do your own research, sure. Google your own business name, Google your own products, Google your name and reviews and just see what comes up and control as much as you possibly can. So yeah, I do think, look, you don't have to master all channels. And I mean, God, who would? Who could possibly master every channel? I mean, I don't. And I am in marketing and I most definitely don't master every channel.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm not even on TikTok.
Yeah, I'm thinking of TikTok. I was wondering if you're already there or not.
I'm not, but only because at this particular point in time, it's not my target demographic.
Yeah.
So I'm keeping a very close eye on it. And if it does change at all, I will go on there. But unfortunately, TikTok's one of those ones where if you set something up, you kind of have to produce content for it.
Yeah.
And at the moment, because it's just absolutely not my demographic at all, I've left it. But I know at some point I will have to do it. And there are a few marketing companies on there. So, you know, it's only a matter of time, I guess, before I have to jump online with it. But yeah, you most definitely don't have to master every channel. By all means, spend the time and effort where your clients are going to be. But yeah, brand yourself, Google, get as much real estate as you possibly can, control your brand, control your message, control your destiny. And if you've got an opportunity to drive traffic back to your website, why wouldn't you do it?
I agree. And yeah, as you mentioned, it doesn't take too long and it's there forever. You just list yourself on a free platform and it's start working for you. It's a free traffic source.
Exactly. Yeah.
And before we wrap things up with a few more questions, I wanted to tap in something that you mentioned, and I think is very relevant. So you mentioned brand exhaustion, and I know a lot of people are concerned about ad fatigue. So do you have like best practices or rule of thumb regarding? I know it's a general question, but how often you should post ads? How often should you promote new stuff? How do you think about ad fatigue? What is your take regarding ad fatigue?
My best piece of advice for ad fatigue is, again, do your competitor research and make sure you stand out from the crowd. Also change it up. Doesn't necessarily mean you have to do a whole new ad. It could just be the difference between, oh my goodness, what have I lost light now as well? Sorry, it's gone pitch black on you. Bear with me. Come on, there we go. There's a bit more light. My goodness. Technical difficulties over here. Can you see me okay?
No, no, you turned off the camera apparently.
Oh my goodness.
No.
There we go.
Awesome.
There's some technical difficulties. I apologize. Yeah, I would say, you know, you can make simple changes, again, depending on your platform. So if you're Facebook, break it up between carousel ads, video ads, still ads, make them all slightly different. And again, beta test, see what works well for you. Make sure you've got a pop color. So if you want somebody to click a buy now or learn more, make sure that button stands out if you can, depending on what platform, again, whether you have that option. If you're using remarketing ads and digital display, if you've got the opportunity to use GIFs, movement always gets more attention. So to give you an example of that, I have a blinds company, and we recently changed all of their marketing across Google AdWords and Facebook. And we used an animated GIF where, because they're a blinds company, we started off like the shutter, and it opens and then it slides and then the message comes up. And we found once we put that animation in there, the conversion rate lifted quite a lot. We actually had quite a big listing conversion rate by adding that movement in there that people sort of looked at and were like, what's that? So yeah, it's nothing new, I guess. Have a look and see what your competitors are doing and make yourself stand out. I mean, if you're, again, selling pet products, have a look at, and you can do that on Facebook. You can go through and you can see all the different ads for this particular industry and have a look at what other people are doing and find a way to stand out, whether that be having a catchier headline, whether it be having a better picture, whether it be using the emoticons and the stamps and all of that on your images, just stand out.
Yeah, and basically you don't have to decide for your own if the ads are fatigue or not. You just see the performance. If performance goes down, you should start testing new stuff. It's pretty easy. If you're not happy with the ROI and profits, you should test new stuff. So it's pretty straightforward. As you mentioned in the beginning of the conversation, it's all about quantifying and quantifiable results. So if you don't like the results, you should optimize. Pretty straightforward.
Absolutely. Constantly do a review of all your figures and have a look at, okay, what's performing well, what's not working. When you've figured out something that's not working, and then go, okay, what part of that's not working and what can I change? And then when you look at making the change, you analyze how the changes work. And that's just an ongoing process. That's just part of business. It's part of being in business. It's something that you never changes. If you want to be good in business, you need to continuously be analyzing your performance and working out ways to improve it.
Agree. Totally agree.
And it's never going to change, because marketplaces are going to change too. So, our competitors, new products will come into the marketplace. New people will sign up to the channels that we're in. There'll be different economic factors that are going to have relevance and impact. So, case in point, right at the moment, we're in a global pandemic. I mean, who could have predicted that? Wow. Apart from Stephen King. But it's one of those things where just don't get comfortable.
Agree.
I just want to tell my customers, don't get comfortable, because my clients go, oh, fuck, Sharney, I feel like I've just finished my website and now I have to review it again, and you want to make more changes. And I said to them, you know what, as soon as you start going, yeah, I don't need to make changes to my website, that's when you're almost giving up on your business, because it's a forever changing thing.
I agree.
Yes, as soon as you've done your website, you should be looking at already, all right, how can I make this one improve? As soon as this one's released and launched, you should start tracking what's happening. How did this improve compared to the last one? And what else can I do? It's a constant, never-ending thing. It is.
Yeah,
it is.
I agree.
It is. But in a competitive marketplace, it's what you have to do. And that's what will give you the competitive edge.
I agree.
Getting complacent and getting comfortable is the best way to, let a business go to sleep.
I agree.
It allows your competitors to come along and take over. So, and people are getting more and more tech savvy. So, you need to be on top of it.
I agree. And there's also a lot of tools, and it becomes easier to duplicate or clone and take ideas and inspiration. So you should all the time innovate. It's as you said, it's a constant optimization and improvement. Otherwise, if you're not moving forward, you're staying behind.
Exactly. Yeah. And look, like you said, people can get a bit daunted, and I always say to my clients, look, don't get daunted. There's so many things that you can work on. Just pick one and just have a challenge that every month you're going to improve something. It might be something small. It might be including a blog. It might be, reviewing your color palette. It might be changing your tagline. It might be, okay, well, now I'm on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. I'm going to look at going and getting Snapchat, LinkedIn, and one of the others. Might be every month you want to get a new channel. So just always be trying to improve your business, and don't get overwhelmed. Just one step at a time, one change at a time. But then the other thing I have to make sure I stress is, it's one thing to make a change, but if you're not monitoring the outcome of that change, then it's almost like, why did you do it? So that's a key part of it as well, is make sure that when you do make a change, don't make too many all at once, because then you won't be able to ascertain what change had the impact you require. Make a change, track it. If it worked well, great. If not, go back to the drawing board. And just that's the process you need to repeat.
I agree. Totally agree. Awesome. So I have a few closing questions, like rapid fire questions, and just feel free to share your thoughts. So first question, is there a tool you started using lately that really changed your business for the better?
Yes. Promo Republic. They're a social media tool. You know how we mentioned earlier that, for a business that's managing their social media, not ads, but social media presence on pages. It's very time consuming because you need to come up with the content, going into Canva. You might use a spreadsheet to come up with the content calendar. Then you go from creating the content calendar to going into Canva and creating the content itself. And then you have to post it. Promo Republic is a relatively new system, but it has Canva built into it as well as a scheduling tool. It also has an AI tool that gives you suggestions on content that's trending well in your industry. So you choose your industry and it'll give you pre-made content that you can spin, rebrand.
Cool.
It has Canva within it, so you can upload things, change it, edit it. You can boost posts, you can schedule posts. It can all be done in this one platform, and it's actually cheaper than most of the others anyway.
Cool.
So it's the only one that I found that allows you to do everything. Google My Business, Pinterest.
Wow, it sounds
Twitter,
good.
Facebook.
I'm going to check.
Yeah, it's a brilliant tool.
I'm going to check it out. Next question. Like 2 or 3 brands that you really like what they're doing and they are not so famous at the moment, or not necessarily not so famous, but 2 or 3 brands that you think the branding team is really good and they're really creating a difference in their business.
I think Showpo is doing really well. It's a fashion online. It's like an online fashion here in Australia. And the young lady who owns it, she had retail stores and she moved everything online, and she is really doing all of the things that we've just spoken about, and her business is just doubling constantly. So she's one of those people that, you watch what she's doing and take note because she's doing really well. Another one, I guess, businesswoman that I admire and keep an eye on. She is quite well known in particular areas. Her name's Naomi Simpson. She owns Red Balloon, which is a entertainment site. It's kind of a like you book gift vouchers for people to go bungee jumping or race car driving or something. So instead of giving them a gift voucher to go and get a massage, you can give them an experience gift voucher. So she's quite famous for that particular site. But being that she owns and dominates that space, she's moving into lots of other different areas, and she's now created Red Media. And she's working with a lot of AI software that specializes in e-commerce, because obviously her main thing is in e-commerce store. So she's actually diversifying her business in ways that help and support her mainframe business, which I think is really clever.
For sure. Yeah, I agree.
And the branding is consistent. She's red. She wears red. She wears red lipstick.
Cool.
She's red balloon, Red Media. So it's So she's very good with her branding and focusing her efforts in places that are going to support everything she does, which I think is pretty clever. But they're the main 2, I think, at the moment that I can think of that are quite impressive.
Cool. I'll add the links to their websites in the show notes afterwards. I never heard about both of them, but I'll check them out. And like any quotes that you live by or you saw lately that really helps you being motivated or really resonates with your values?
Probably my favorite one is, there's actually 2 quotes that I love quite a lot. One's by Mark Twain, who's a writer. And it says, a river cuts through a rock, not from strength, but through persistence. So if you think about it, a rock is stronger than water, but water goes through rocks because of persistence. And I quite like that because I think a lot of the time that old saying that hustle beats talent when talent doesn't hustle, it kind of makes sense. So, you can be successful if you work hard and you really want to do it. And the other one is Walt Disney. And he says we all have the power to make our dreams come true if we have the passion and pursuit of them. So I kind of like that as well, because I just think, well, it is one of those things where a lot of the time, if there's something that you really want to make happen, it's only going to happen if you pursue it, if you chase it, if you take the first step.
Yeah. I agree.
And it takes courage to do that, but
Totally agree. Great. Any closing thoughts, something that you would like to mention to the audience? Any tips? Where can people find you? Where can people contact you?
Yeah, look, we are pretty much everywhere, Mash Media. So we do free marketing reviews. So I will send you the link. You can put through a request and I can go through and provide you some experience, some notes, some ideas based on your particular. It's a bit hard when we're talking over the phone about our potential clients, because they could be very broad. So it's if they want more detailed, then the best way would be go to my website and book in a free marketing review, and then we can go through and talk about it.
Cool.
I guess in closing, all I can say to everyone out there is just keep going, do your research. Be consistent, track everything you do, and just keep trying to improve.
I agree. Awesome. Thank you so much. It was very, very interesting. I really enjoyed it, and a lot of talking about branding, which is a concept that I think I mistakenly overlook as well, but it gave me a few ideas and things that I need to improve in my game and in our stores. And yeah, it was a lot of value and very fun. So thank you so much.
Yes, thank you for bearing with me with my internet dying and then my lights going out.
Awesome.
Oh goodness.
Okay, thank you so much. Bye-bye.
We're a bit behind over here in Australia. Land down under. All right, well, thank you so much. Have a wonderful afternoon.
Okay, you too. Bye-bye. Take care. Bye.
Okay.